13ABC. Conklin and Company with 13ABC Action News anchor Lee Conklin. First with what's happening behind the headlines. And Take 3, our panel of political analysts.
Morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Conklin and Company. Coming up today on the program, who do you trust? The local businesses who go about it the right way, trustworthy, in an ethical manner. Those businesses who do it the right way will be awarded in just a couple of weeks at a special event called the Torch Awards for Marketplace Ethics. We'll check in with the man who's led the charge for the last 10 years of this award ceremony, Dick Epstein from the Better Business Bureau of Northwest Ohio. Also keeping Wrangler production right here in Toledo on the way in Take 3, and you'll hear from Governor Kasich on that. Also, Ebola in America, Ebola in Ohio now, and as we record here on Friday, I had a chance to talk with the governor about the response to Ebola from a state perspective. He says this was on the state radar for a couple of months. Our conversation.
We were working on this Ebola all the way back at the end of July, so it's not as though we woke up one day and decided this was a problem. We have been working with hospitals, with the frontline health providers, making sure they have the appropriate garments, the equipment they need, and if somebody walks in. And so within the last 24, 48 hours, I actually chartered a plane and flew the CDC experts in from Washington last night. They are fully embedded with our people. They're traveling in the state now with our people. I've talked to the head of the CDC, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, and today had a conversation with the president. We have issued protocols that are actually tougher than the CDC, that if you come in immediate contact with someone that has this, you'll be quarantined. If you're relatively close, we will have a witness to see if you take your temperature, how you do, take your own at one time during the day, but also a witness. And if you're in a farther proximity, then we will notify you. We are working with the hospitals to make sure now that they run simulations. We've asked them to do that so that the nurses can understand how things are going to work. We are working with the local health departments. I was just on a telephone call with school superintendents and principals, EMS, the legislature, and we've got a number of epidemiologists who are engaged in the Department of Health. That's how we developed our protocols, and I've asked the president to make sure the CDC supports a little tougher standards here, which he's agreed to do. And the president himself is operating and running this through the Situation Room. So we've kind of done touching all the bases. There's probably some things we missed, but you know, I think we're up on top of this, and I'm comfortable with where we are right now. In terms of the situation involving the nurse did come to Akron. She did have, of course, close and immediate contact both with her mother and her mother's fiance. He is now quarantined. We have the manifest and are checking the people that have been on the plane when she flew out. We're also checking the manifest with the people who were on the plane headed to Texas, and also with her mother, who then flew to Texas. So,
has contact been made with those passengers who?
I can't give you the details of where it is right now, but obviously we are working to make sure that anybody that was on that plane could have been in contact will be notified and treated in a way that we think is the safest for the public and for them.
And we recorded that Thursday afternoon as we tape here Friday, and now we air on Sunday. Of course, things are evolving as far as those passengers are concerned. And we wanted to bring in Erin Wiley, who's a counselor, talks to kids about things that happen that they see in the news, and certainly it's been in the news. Erin, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. I guess the range of emotions since not only Ebola first came onto American shores, but now rearing its head in Ohio for the first time. Concern, very concerned, panic, anger at whether it be the government, the CDC, people who get on airplanes and may be symptomatic. So my first question to you is, what are the kids bringing home to their parents, and how do you address it?
Well, I think it depends where kids are hearing things. They're hearing things at school. If they're hearing them from friends or teachers, their information may vary. Kids are seeing things on the news, and I think that when they bring them to you, it's a great opportunity to discuss them. I think probably the most important point for parents that I would emphasize is that kids will take the temperature from you on how you're responding to it. Already just the other day when I was watching it, I said, wow, as I'm watching the news, gosh, someone got on a plane and they might have been sick with it. And my kids immediately picked it up and said, well, what does that mean? Who's going to get it? Everyone on the plane?
Right.
So they really can be quick to panic if you don't quell that bit of hysteria that they can pick up from you.
Well, that's interesting because that's difficult to do, because if you go on Facebook, we do see some panic, some anger. And we saw that on Tuesday when I was there on assignment. Happened to be that news of Miss Vincent broke, that she had traveled from Dallas to Cleveland. And then we got some of those messages. Well, why'd you send them? Why are you going there? Going to bring it back.
Right.
And you know, there's still so many things we're going to learn about this. We're learning every day. But anger certainly rearing its head on social media. And kids are going to see that.
They are. And I think to be able to explain to kids why someone feels that way, with children in particular, we want to be careful to not dismiss their emotions. So if kids are angry or they see someone's angry, I think it helps as a parent to be able to explain to them why, rather than dismiss it as something foolish or something to not be concerned with. To be able to explain why someone might be angry, that they're concerned about their health or their children's health. Explain why it's okay to feel nervous or anxious, that that's a normal reaction. But
I think everyone is.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. So to be able to empathize with your kids and let them know that you understand their emotions is important. But then being able, depending on their age, to be able in an age-appropriate fashion to kind of lay out what is really happening. You know, for littler kids, it's a really serious sickness, but it's really hard to catch. And explaining to them how the government is taking actions to protect people, and how in your hometown you're very safe, that there's no one locally who has it.
But it's incumbent upon us to protect ourselves as well, and to go to those steps to avoid the places where you could possibly be in contact.
For sure. Well,
right?
and this is a great opportunity.
Few here now in Ohio, but
right. It's a good opportunity for parents, I think, to encourage their kids to do normal hygiene things that kids like to blow off anyway, like washing their hands thoroughly, keeping their hands
preventing the flu
out of their eyes and face, and it'll keep them from getting a lot of different kinds of sicknesses.
At what age, Erin, do kids really start to get it? In terms of understanding what warning signs mean, but the symptoms, what have you. Is it a junior high kid who's smart enough to look and say, okay, I'm going to take a look at these warning signs? Sure.
I mean, I think it depends on the information. Junior high kids definitely will get the symptoms, what that looks like, what it might mean for their school or their community. But even 3- and 4-year-old kids hear things on the news. They know about hand washing from preschool. So they're hearing that people are sick. I think that's where it's up to the parents to kind of translate what that means for them at their age.
All right. Erin Wiley, we appreciate you coming in on a moment's notice on Conklin and Company. So many tentacles to this situation, the Ebola situation in the United States. And of course in West Africa. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Erin Wiley, when we come back in just a minute, we'll talk about, some possible Ebola scams that may be popping up out there, and also a big event, the Torch Awards for Marketplace Ethics. Dick Epstein from the Better Business Bureau, right after this.